Hi and welcome to Rideshare Rhetoric. I'm Clarky
And I'm Margaret.
and we're here with another episode from the Rideshare Library of Stories. So this one I found really entertaining. Do you know how I really enjoy people that are open and honest and are prepared to talk about anything?
Yeah, I know that about you, but I also know that you accept everyone just the way they are. So it makes it really easy for people to share who they are.
I live by two words in particular, one acceptance and one respect.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who it is. And this girl needed a lot of acceptance and a lot of respect.
Did she? Why?
Well, I pulled it outside a block of units and it was a hot day and she came running out of the unit. And I thought, oh, we've got to get going. We're in a hurry. But she was hot. Like, not hot in good looking. She was hot as in sweating. She jumps in the car. She's got a really short skirt on, fully made up. Jumps in the front seat with me, which is it's always a good sign when someone jumps in the front seat. They're confident. A lot of people jump in the back seat and don't want to talk. They sit there and hide in the corner. It takes me a lot to get information out of them.
And not everyone wants to talk.
Everybody wants to talk. Anyway, she sits in the front seat and the first thing she says as she closes the door, "Can you turn the air conditioner up? Turn it up as high as it goes." And I said, "Really? Okay. Yeah, just let me." She goes, "Because my titties are melting." And I went, "Seriously?"
What kind of titties were they?
Well, they were hers, but they weren't. And I said, "Well, that must be an unfortunate situation." And she said, "Oh, it's horrible."
You said to someone that says about their titties melting, "Oh, that's an unfortunate situation."
It is.
I call bullshit.
No, it's true. It's true. And she's sitting there and she's getting as close to the air conditioner as possible. And she goes, "You don't understand." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I'm a transvestite." And I said, "I sort of gathered that. You weren't the most feminine looking girl I'd ever seen." And she goes, "Yeah, I'm a chick with a dick." And I said, "This is great. I love people who are prepared to talk about things like this and not hide them." And I said, "That's spectacular. When did you become a transvestite?" And she goes, "Oh, years ago. I love dressing up and now I've moved into a different world." And I said, why are you in town?" And she goes, "I'm working." I said, "What are you doing? What's your work?" Because I'm thinking, I'm not employing this girl.
I'm thinking drag queen bingo.
Well, it could have been drag queen bingo.
Yeah.
A drag queen bingo. But instead, she just up and said, "I'm a sex worker." Now, when somebody says that to you, my mind goes into overdrive. I go, wow, how exciting is this? Not because she's a sex worker, but she's said that she's a chick with a dick, her titties are melting, and now she's a sex worker. Like, she is being really open and honest.
Yeah.
So I went, okay. She then went on to say that she's been working in the area for the last couple of weeks. And I said, "Well, how do you get your clients?" Because I'm tipping if she's walking the streets, nobody's picking her up.
But she's a local? She came from an apartment?
No, she's actually here from one of the cities.
Oh, okay.
So she's come here for a little stint. And,
A working
stint.
I was going to say working holiday, but not quite. No, this is her work.
And anyway, she's telling me, after I asked, how does she get a client? She goes, "Oh, we have a website and people can go on the website and select this, and then I just rock up to the location." I said, "Okay." I said, and I'm thinking, like, I can't imagine anybody being that excited about going, "I'm taking the transvestite, the big one, but the chick with the dick, I'm going to take her." And
yeah, I can't imagine that either, actually.
No. Anyway, I said, "So how many clients would you have since you've been here?" Like, she goes, "Baby, baby, I could fuck 24 hours a day if I wanted to."
Right.
And I went, "Wow, really? Okay. Who are your clients? Like, who are your clients? Who's doing the whole...
I can't believe you asked her all of this.
And she was great. So I asked her whether she did drugs, and she didn't do drugs. She did a little glass of champagne or before she went to a client, and that was about it.
Good for her.
And I said, who are your clients? And she said, they're all men, and they're all married. And I went, whoa. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect them to be married males.
Who did you expect them to be?
I have no idea. Single drunk guys. That's what I expected.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yep. That are just fantasising. But married guys were the majority of her clients. And so then I obviously went, do they like to give or receive? I had to ask that question.
You didn't have to ask that question.
Well, it was in my mind. Everybody wants to know that.
So there's this saying, think before you speak.
I did. I was thinking. So I said, do they like to give or take? And I'm thinking, I really had no idea. And she said, generally they like it both ways. They give and take. I said, okay, that's cool. And I unfortunately, this ride, it's one of those people you want in your car for an hour, because she was honest, and I could have spoken about a whole range of things.
Yeah.
Like from her colleagues to, they're just never-ending topics. And unfortunately, it was a fairly short ride. She wanted to know where the local or the best Italian restaurant was, and I said, oh, pretty expensive, it's around the corner here. And she goes, money's not a problem. So I dropped her off there. But it was astounding, because I'm sure I've had other working girls, but they've never told me that. They've never been open and honest like that. And she was funny. She was funny, and she actually got out of the car and she said, God, you ask a lot of questions.
And she's right.
And it was a cool interaction, that's for sure. So I don't know how many people are out there doing that stuff, and so after I dropped her off, or just as I dropped her off, she opened the door and got out. And I said, I've got one more question. I said, what happens if a girl orders you? Orders? I don't know how I guess they order. And she took a breath and she looked at me and she went, yeah, baby, I love a girl. And then she walked off.
What a great chick.
She was great.
What a great chick, seriously.
She was as big as me too. It was crazy.
Hard to tell when you're sitting down.
You can see how wide my shoulders are.
Only if you're watching.
That's true. Watch on YouTube. Now, if you like these stories and you like Rideshare Rhetoric, subscribe to me, like this episode, and recommend it to your friends. And we'll see you soon.